Hello! Today I'll be solving remove element. The problem reads as follows. Given an array nums and a value val, remove all instances of that value in place and return the new length. Do not allocate extra space for another array. You must do this by modifying the input array in place with O of 1 extra memory. The order of elements can be changed. It doesn't matter what you leave beyond the new length. So let's take a look at the example. Nums here is an integer array and we're given a value 3. We have to return of the length of the numbers that are not 3. There are 2 such numbers, so we return 2. The next example is similar. So I'm going to demonstrate how I would solve this. So on the right here I have a function remove element. Its parameters are the nums and value, and I have a index which is 0. What I'm going to do is using a for loop traverse from the first element until the last in nums and verify whether every element that I'm on, so every certain element, does that not equal to value. And I only want to know that any element that doesn't equal my value, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the index number, so whatever my index number is, I'm going to put that element into the position as the index number. So for example, if my index is 0, nums of 0 would be the first place. So if I find an element that is not 2, for example, if I find a element 1 here, what I'm going to do is, if my index is 0, the element 1 would go in position 0 because my index is 0. And I would then, only after removing the element 1 to the first position of the array, I would increment the count of index to 1 from 0. Let's draw this out so you can visualize it better. So to beginning, I would have I equals to 1. So I equals to 0 because arrays start with 0. So I equals to 0. And so does index equals to 0. So the element at this point is 2. So let's see. Nums of I is 2. And 2 equals 2 in this case because our value is 2 and the element we first encounter is 2. So because the if condition here doesn't match, we don't go into this logic here where we replace the element. So what we do is we traverse to the next element. So I is 1 now, which would be addressing this element here, number 1. So when I equals to 1, we ask the same question in the if statement here. 1, nums of I is 1 now. 1 does not equal to 2. That's correct. So we would go in the logic here. Nums of index is 0 because the index count hasn't increased. So nums of index is 0 and nums of I here is 1. So what happens is nums of I, which is 1 right now, it would take place of nums of index, which is 0. So it would look like this. This element here would come here. Now let's go to the next statement, which is index plus plus. Now at this point, index gets incremented to 1 from 0. And now we go to the next traversal, which is here. I equals to 2. Now I equals to 2, we ask the same question. 2 equals to 2, so we don't go into the if condition. And index stays the same still as 1. So we move on to the next traversal, which happens to be the last in our array, which is I equals to 3. So we're looking at the element 7 here for that I equals to 3. So let's check our if condition. Nums of I is 7 now. 7 does not equals to 2. That's correct. So now what we have to do is put 7 in place of 1, because nums of I is 7 and nums of index is 1. So 7 goes into the first position of the array. So 7 comes here. So after our traversal finishes, what our array looks like is this. We have a 1 and you have a 7. And the length of that is 2. So output is 2. I'm gonna run the code on LeetCode just to show you guys. Okay, so let's run the code. And it's accepted, so I'm just gonna walk through this briefly. I have a if condition here, which is basically addressing if we're given an empty array, we just return it as null. So I hope this makes sense, and I hope you found my demonstration helpful. Should you have further questions or comments, please leave them below. I'll be sure to get back to you, and if I did a relevant job explaining and was helpful, please do subscribe. Thank you.